Bono Estante, welcoming all of the forum, and a big welcome to all the people that are there in the chats. Free World, Tom Boland, Stefan Mack, Megan McCallion, Owen Conway, all the familiar heads and new heads that I see in there. Kev O'Sullivan's in. He'll be shouting at me now in a few minutes. Red Steve is there. Sing Andy, a bin dipper. They aren't happy about that at all. Mohammed Farouk is in. Dan Bailey's in. Great to see all the people in. I am, of course, your host tonight. I'm Phil Casey. I was surprised to be your host. I thought I was just going to be another voice on the panel, but I'm not. Gav is here tonight. He's joining me all the way from over there. And then down below is Shawnee. We've managed to rob Shawnee off the Sunday night show. And here's Andy, my old partner in crime there, Andy, with a lovely silver fox of a head there, all shiny and satellite to bring us all the positivity after a weekend of positivity.
I just thought I'd try some new lighting tonight because of that new glimmer of hope.
It's bouncing off your mallet.
Yeah, you need to get some powder. Because it's very shiny.
Looks like you're being sniped in Warzone.
Wouldn't be the first time.
You want to be careful because Gordon Elliott might sit in your head if you're not careful.
Oh,
right?
Don't. Jesus.
Anyway,
48.
Did mark it down for the pod that won't get released tomorrow, right? So anyway, what do we talk about tonight? So it is the forum. It is the 4 topics and anything else we wanted to get to at this stage. We've got Shawnee, we've got Andy, we've got Gav, we've got myself. We've got a range of topics. We want to hear from what you guys have your opinions on it. We'll read some of them out. We'll throw them up on screen. And we might even have, if we have a bit of time left over at the end, we might even let you pick us a topic to discuss if we can't think up of anything relevant or funny or interesting. So the first topic of tonight on the forum is a topic raised by Sean. And I think it's fair to say that this topic has been discussed and debated a fair bit across the course of the season, but probably
not in the way though I want to talk about it. Not far.
That's and I think that's fair, Shawnee, because I think only now people are starting to really get to grips with what the real issue is. And I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, like when I was asked the other night what I wanted to speak about, like fucking, you know, from the Sunday night show that I'm literally sick to my back teeth discussing VAR, because I think now it's even kind of a tool that the refs are hiding behind with their own incompetence, that they seem to be just getting away with it. But like these shower of fuckers seem to be coming up with new ways every week to make a bollocks of things. Like the amount of times you can count where there was a situation that happened where you're thinking, what the fuck is going on here? And then it's just, I think between the Chelsea game yesterday and the Brighton game on Saturday, I'm not sure how it can get any worse than it currently is. And the worrying thing is that, like, we're all fans of the Premier League, so to speak. We'll be watching English football. I don't know where they go from here, because I don't know. I'm not sure there's a quick fix here for the problem, because I think it goes right down to the bottom. And this technology that they brought in to help these refs has only furthered out at them. It's only highlighted just how incompetent that they are. So the lack of quality officiating in England it's baffling, really, considering it's supposed to. Well, it is commercially the biggest league in the world.
Gav, you've had your opinion on VAR. You're not a big fan, but like I'd say I've long held the issue that the issue has never been the technology. It's been the Muppets that have been running the show for God knows how long at this stage. Johnny's right in the money in terms of, from my point of view as well. I'm not going to add much more to what Johnny wants to say on it, but like from your point of view, Gav, how do we improve the situation? How do we get rid of the absolute shysters that are professional people who are incapable of either applying the laws of the game or even given reasons as to why they're incapable of applying the laws of the game?
Look, VAR came as a package at the start of the season, or the start of last season, whatever it was. And you know, it was there's a human element, and Kieran Thorne says VAR is not the issue. It's a human element, and I 100% get that. But it came as a package, and you know, it is becoming more apparent now that it is the human element of it. Like we've had loads of arguments over VAR, we've had loads of arguments over drawing lines, we've had loads of stuff, and they're caught between a rock and a hard place now, because the more you see of them, the more information you get on them, the worse they look. All right, for me, the solution, and it has always been the solution, is it needs to be more transparent. But
No.
transparency will kill them. All right. The solution, clear them all out and get another load in, but that's never going to happen. Never going to happen. The PGMOL are so insulated in what they're doing that, you know, like Lee Mason does what he does, and we'll get on to Brighton's goal in a minute. But he does what he does, and next of all, he's out with the Sheffield United versus Liverpool game. You know, Jurgen Klopp loses a game during the week. He doesn't not be on the bench the following week. He has to show up. He has to do his job. You know what I mean? So they're so insulated, it's untrue. The transparency thing has always been my issue, Phil. It always has been. Because we can argue about lines drawn. We can argue about what's intentional, what's not intentional. You know, is it subjective, is it objective? You can go on all fucking day about it. But at the end of the day, and I keep going back to it, the way rugby union have it is absolutely perfect.
But
They
God,
mic
this
them
is
up.
the, rugby union
hold on,
have
Johnny.
competent refs. Rugby union have competent refs.
That's the main issue. That's the main issue. So you clear them out and start again, but that's not going to happen. So what's the next best thing to do? Right? From our point of view, the next best thing to do is to mic them up. And you get all these arguments.
What's it going to do?
Well, I'll tell you what it'll do. You get
I'll
all
have a
these
point
arguments.
about that in a second.
Yeah, you get all these arguments.
It'll make them look even worse. It'll make them
Exactly,
look
Johnny. This is what I'm
even
saying
worse
to you.
than they already are.
But
So what?
That's
Like,
not going to make it better.
But
it won't make it better.
But
The problem is, Gav, that Teflon, these refs that Teflon, because you can't even say that now. You're seeing 2 Manchester United players had to come out and say, "Oh, we misheard the referee," and Solskjaer wouldn't go near it because that Teflon, they're untouchable.
This is what I'm saying to you.
You see
So
what happened.
There has to be a process.
Mike Dean is coming out saying they should be called onto the pitch. Sky have them McGallagher, BT have your man Peter Walton. Like, these have become Teflon. These lads are above board. But that's what I'm saying. This is a serious issue, because we all watch Champions League football. I watch quite a bit of football in Italy. I watch quite a bit of football in Spain. It's not that bad there. It's really not. Gav, there's one Champions League ref from England, Michael Oliver, and he's gotten 3 games out of something like 13 match days.
Yeah.
So that doesn't tell you. So Mike and these up.
I'm trying to talk from our point of view. Phil's question was, how do you feel you think it would be better? There's only 2 options. One, you clear them out and you start again. That's never going to happen. So let's put that to bed, right? Because as I said, they're so insulated, and like you said, they're Teflon, they're untouchable. Okay. The next issue is a demand on them for the people to know exactly what's going on, and that Brighton thing to the day is case in point. Okay. If that happens in rugby, what happens? What happens? I'll tell you what happens. The referee, and you'll hear arguments about, you'll hear people swearing and all. That's completely untrue. You walk away from the situation, you get on and you go, listen, Phil, you're in the box. I've seen this. And you hear the conversation, and you might agree or not agree with it, but you hear
they were literally checking if he blew the whistle before your man kicked it. That's how bad it's gotten.
That's how bad. But this is what I'm saying.
And even with video evidence, he still didn't give the fucking goal. He couldn't just put his hand. This is what I think the best thing the refs can do. Could just turn around and start saying, "Do you know what? I messed up. It was a mistake." Because if they bring a more human element, but if they bring a more human element to what they're doing, then you can understand. Human error is always going to be part of football, whether it's inflicted by teams causing unforced error for goals or officiating. But to just bury your hand in the sand and come out during the week with an explanation as to why everything is okay. Case in point, the West Ham red card, the Man City offside, the Bamford offside, the Watkins offside. This has nothing got to do with VAR. This is just a situation where these lads are actually above board. And I wouldn't mind, like, I think football fans would be more endeared to referees. Like, Lee Mason should have been laughed off the pitch on Saturday and just gave the goal and laughed and said, "You know what, sorry, I fucked up." But he didn't. He had to double down on himself. Yeah, and he still disallowed the goal after you could clearly see that it was a perfectly
it's ridiculous
legitimate goal. So
and he has to disallow it. He has to disallow it because he blows the whistle a second time.
Well, can I just blow it the first time?
He shouldn't. He should have blew the whistle. He shouldn't have blown it the second time, and that's why he has to do it. But sorry, quickly, Phil. We have to go through a process here, all right? And I don't think it's a very easy process as to make the standard better, because, like you said, they're untouchable, All right. So the only way you can do it is a bit of carrot and stick, right? And you hope that they fall for this. And the only way to do it is to mic them up. It's to mic them up. And there's no statements 2 days later, and there's no he's injured, and there's none of this deflecting all week. All right.
Well, God, they're mic'd up already. We just can't hear them. So
let us hear them. Let us hear them.
Andy, you wanted to say something to join in the debate. I heard your whistle. I heard it was time for you to bring it in.
Great show so far, lads. Great show. I feel like I'm listening to myself there a few months ago when I kept banging on about VAR not being the problem and it was the refs. I'm glad you're finally coming around to that talk. It's a fucking disgrace, the referees, and it's carrying on every week. The only thing I'd say about miking them up, and I think they should mic them up because I want them to be shown up to be further incompetent and prove that point. It's going to be a circus if they ever mic them up. Because can you imagine the stuttering that would go on and the uncertainty? It would be an absolute, like, listen to clowns talking because they are incompetent, and it's dead right. They don't get invited to World Cups. They don't get invited into the Champions League. You do see errors in the Champions League with VAR, and you do see it in other, because Dale on ESPN always points it out, but it's a week. It's like several a weekend in the Premier League. It's a disgrace at this stage. The only solution is to bin them all, bring in foreign refs, pay them the money, bring them in and referee the game like it's supposed to be, with completely objective to the rules of the game, because it's just stupid. Every week we're seeing a different problem. The thing about giving people more information as well with the whole mic'd up thing, you see in the Champions League, it doesn't show you all the lines. What you get every week as well in the Premier League is they show so many lines for offsides, and people still can't accept that those lines are actually straight and they're derived from really advanced technology. And they're not wrong. Like, them lines are correct. They're completely vertical and horizontal. The technology is perfect. And there's no manipulation. But occasionally you do see them make a mistake where they plot the point. It was my understanding it was decided short sleeve for a while, but in actual fact, it's level with the armpit as a line is drawn out. So it's very much subjective. And again, it's just subjectivity in the game of football just doesn't work.
Well, how can Saturday happen? How can Saturday happen, Phil, with VAR still there, though? That's what I don't get.
So Sean, this is what I want to everyone keeps thinking, what's the solution? What's the solution? There's three elements to this problem. One is that the laws of the game haven't been updated to reflect that VAR is a real thing in it. We still have left subjectivity, too much subjectivity in the laws of the game, right? You can go black and white with a lot of issues. You can even improve the offside rule, because this idea of players facing this way and this way, if a fella is going this way and a fella is coming this way, like, it should be at the hip bone or something like that determines whether there's space between a player or not, right? This idea of arms and heads and noses.
It should be done off the foot. It should be done off the foot, and that's it.
Don't disagree. So the laws need to be updated to reflect that. But also, England are unique in that they refuse to ever question their institute, and I'm really big on this, right? Because this is it's very specific to England. Yes, they make mistakes in Spain, they make mistakes in Germany, they make mistakes in the Champions League, but it's very unique to England that you can't question the institution. And we're talking about a recently fabricated institution of the referees, the PGMOL, because they didn't exist 20 years ago. They were just the referees. The FA had all the referees and would assign a referee based on their ability or perceived ability to get better and better. Now we have these it's the professional game, match officials, whatever it is that's behind them. And because they become professionals, they're expected to be the cream of the crop in England. You've all touched on the point. None of them are getting big games. None of them getting World Cups. None of them getting Champions League matches. They're not getting Champions League finals because they're deeply, deeply, deeply poor officials. And I think it's going to take... The clubs are hamstrung in that they can... If they say anything, they get fined. If they say anything, your managers are getting refed. But at some point, the clubs have to come together and say, we want an alternative. We want two competing factions. The only thing that makes it better is if you have Group A and Group A are deeply incompetent and shit, we want Group B, and we want to see if we bring in a Group B, be it foreign, you're allowed to have foreign officials ref 10 matches a season to see what the quality is in terms of what's there. Put them in, see what happens, and then stand back at the end and say, right, actually, lads, 15 of yous are incredibly incompetent, and we'd rather take the next tier down, the younger fellas that are coming through, the fit fellas. The one thing I would say about English referees, the vast majority of them are fat and overweight and shouldn't and don't look anything near the level of professional referees should look. Like, these fellas are being paid to be able to keep up with the pace of the game. You have the likes of John Moss, even Lee Mason. They can't keep up, but they can't keep up with the pace that these games are played at. You can see in terms of distance covered and all that type of stuff. And you don't have this. You look at the Spanish referees, and there's slim and as light as the players that are on the pitch, and they're able to keep up with the pace of the game. You look at the German fellas, the same. You look at across Europe, they're the same. But yet you look at England, and it looks like the front rows of rugby teams from 1994 before it became a professional sport. It's embarrassing. It's deeply.
Did you ever watch them? Yeah. Did you ever watch
player.
them when you go to the game and you watch them warming up? It's absolutely comical.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So,
like
Phil, you were saying, I never actually thought, like, Andy makes a great point there. I think foreign refs is probably the best way to go, pay them the money. But as I knew I was talking about this here, I just did a little bit of reading up, because I knew Mark Clattenburg went to Saudi Arabia, but he went there, got mad money. And after 18 months, the head of the FA in Saudi Arabia was like, the fundamentals that you're trying to teach here are different to what we actually know in football. So you're gone. They got rid of him after 18 months. And he was supposed to be the poster boy for English refereeing. And he was gone. And now look at him now. I think the problem is with being a referee in England, it's different. They get away with, like you said, John Moss, Lee Mason. And then what was your man who was apparently messing around with the dogs? What's his name? What's that man? Remember I was going around that he was messing around with a Jack Russell or something. He hasn't been seen since.
It was, and I think he made it was
Kevin Fred. No, he's still going anyway.
No,
but anyway, someone might be able to point out in the chat. Like, they're like celebrities. Like, take Mike Dean, for instance. He's doing a Peter Crouch podcast, and he's everything that you think he is. He's like up his own arse. He's seen at games at Tranmere, giving it a large one, like he's like a member of Green Street or something. These love it. They love the limelight. Look at Mark Clattenburg is doing opinion pieces now, like he's trying to take on Jurgen Klopp. And then he comes around, the mask slips completely and turns around and confirmed what we all knew for years. Oh yeah, we were all intimidated by Alex Ferguson. This, that, and the other all coming out. Now, I don't believe there's some grand conspiracy against Liverpool, because the first year there was VAR in the Champions League, we won it. And first year that there was VAR in the Premier League, we win it. So I don't think there is. I think you just feel like Bobby Madley, that's the one. Yeah, you can look that up. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Can we leave Bobby Madley alone, please?
It's actually not. And the poor fella had to. The poor fella.
It's allegedly. And
there was a massive apology. He's lost his career over it. And of all the fellas that was there, he actually wasn't the worst of the referees that's there. And he, even though everything that was put against him has been proven to be lies and fake truths, and
he said something. I don't know, was it racist or something inappropriate a few years ago, and that's he's being brought to town over, and there was no forgiveness.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Bobby, if you're watching, I'm very sorry. I hope everything's all right. You don't want to work for them anyway. They're shower the shite. But
Get a job in Germany.
What are you gonna do? Like, so how can this be fixed? That's what I want to know.
I think there's been a knock-on effect on all this, right? Because I think it's all right. I think when you look at European football, and we're going to watch the Champions League next week. Next week, isn't it? And you know, we'll watch that, and there might be a decision against Liverpool, Leipzig, and it'll be done and dusted. A couple of seconds, and you go, yeah, that's a decision they've made, and you trust them. You don't want them to draw the lines. You don't want them, because you trust the process. The English FA or the English referees always seem to be against this VAR, and now when you look at them, they didn't seem to be able to implement it properly, and now you see the decisions they're making, and now all we're down to now is waiting every Monday morning to see what excuse is going to roll out of the PGMOL, right? With regards to whatever decision was made of it. That's all we're waiting on. So the next logical step, it just keeps knocking itself down the line. So what's the next step? Like Shawnee's asking, how do you solve it? The next step is that you cut out any opportunity of making up an excuse on the Monday morning or some sort of statement. And I keep saying it until I'm fucking blue in the face. I'm not asking them to be mic'd up for the whole game. I don't want to listen to fucking Craig Pawson panting all fucking day. But what I'm saying is, if a decision needs to be made and it looks like that, he just presses a button and he's mic'd up, and like you see in American football, they press a button and they talk. In rugby, they press a button and they talk, and it's across all TV. That's it. But you see, the thing is, you will never get to that because behind it all, there's a massive ring of protection against these referees, and we all know, right? We all know. Look, we all know for a fact. If they referee up 10 referees in the Premier League this weekend, right, and something goes badly wrong, right? Something goes badly wrong, and instead of us getting a statement on a Monday morning, we all hear the conversation between the fella on the pitch and the fella in the transit. We all know come Monday they're going to go, that's the last straw we're holding on to, boys. This is like, the position is untenable.
This is symptomatic. That's something that's deeply unique in English culture. And it comes back to so many things that it's fascinating. And I've said it again, it's this defense of the institution. Once the institution is established, you can never, ever, ever question the institution. And everyone within that institution will say whatever they have to take to make sure that the institution isn't brought into account. You think of the police forces, you think of all the stuff that's gone on with their House of Commons, with the Tories, their government, everything that's there, right? The institution is held above the person, above errors, above mistakes, and is never accountable for any of its actions. So when a group of officials are as incompetent as the referees officials are, yet they make up lies after lies about why they made a decision, when they've said one thing and come out and completely reverse it and say whatever they want the next day to make it look like it's a better excuse that was there. And then if that excuse doesn't really wash in the press, they will change the excuse again to say, oh no, that wasn't the actual excuse, it's this excuse. That's what has been done through 20, 30, 40, 100 years. It's in the English psyche around.
But we don't need to go through 20, 30, 40. We can go since September. They're changing
it's rules.
Everywhere.
It's a mentality. But Gav, it's a mentality. It's a mentality. And if you look at,
I agree with you. I agree with you.
It works in the Champions League because, again, they've made it very clear. It's the clear and obvious part. It's the clear and obvious part of this.
Yeah, but that's the get out. That's the get out. That's the grey matter. That's the what's clear and obvious? Like that's subjective completely. And the thing that I think just defeats the whole purpose of this having VAR video, like John Moss could be in Stockley Park one week and then he's reffing at Man City the next week. Well, the fella who he would say he's David Coote is on the pitch and these are all in this together. So it's sort of like a fraternity, if you know what I mean. Like
100%.
They're digging each other out. So,
but they're all dropping. Like so someone says, there, Michael Oliver.
This is PGMOL. So why don't the Premier League have an individual panel? Why can't they just set up a veto system in terms of VAR, saying if there's 3 or 4 refs or an ex-player and two ex-players and 2 refs, and they veto a system, which will probably only take 20, 30 seconds if they're all looking at the decision at the same time. And then it goes based on that. Because that way it would be much easier for consumers to swallow if they found out that this isn't just come down to the call of the fella on the pitch. He's got a shout from the lads in Stockley Park, and the 4 or 5 lads who are also there to officiate the game, the majority of them agreed this was the decision. Now, your man is getting lashed yesterday for I don't think that was a handball yesterday against United. I don't think it was, because what's natural position. This is like clear and obvious. What's a natural position? Did they show a silhouette of a fella standing with his hands down beside his waist? The only time that a player is standing with his hands down beside his waist in a football match is if they're standing waiting for the Champions League anthem. There's nothing natural about just standing still like a silhouette of it. If you're going to challenge a player, you're trying to get in front of them, you're jostling for the ball. The natural action is if you play football, you put your arm across to block him away from the ball, shield the ball. That's what Hudson-Odoi done. I think yesterday the ref used common sense and said that's not a fucking handball. But the rule is now is you have, the way football has gone these days, that's a handball I've seen them given. They've changed the handball rule twice already this season.
Yeah, which is bizarre in itself.
So, before VAR, it probably hadn't been changed in probably once in 10 years, maybe, the depiction of it. So, I don't know. It's disheartening, really, because I think the Premier League need to intervene now, because this will get to a stage where it actually will harm the product, because this is $1 billion.
It's harming the product already, and we're still at the point where
when it comes to a stage where a big decision causes someone being relegated or someone missing out on European football or someone being crowned champions, like your positioning in the league it's all monetized. So it's worth millions. If you even between finishing 9th and 7th, there's still a marginal amount of money. Singular decisions will cause that. It will get to the stage where, for example, say, here was it on Brighton and West Brom. If that's 3 points where West Brom stay up, anyone who goes down in their place
last season.
feel aggrieved. Exactly.
Happened last season.
So,
at Villa Park.
and there you go. Like goal line technology, they can't even get that right. The fuckers forgot to turn her on. Like, so I don't know. This is the worrying part. As a fan of football and English football in particular,
Sean,
it's worrying.
But you can't just turn on goal line tech. Like the technology itself, it's either on or it's not on, right? Like this thing, that's a lie.
The watch never went off.
Well, but that goes back to my institution thing. It's a lie. They lie to people. People accept it and they move on. And that's what they do to protect themselves, because instead of admitting that they made a mistake, and people would actually accept this more and would accept mistakes more if they come out and say, we actually got that wrong. You know, the offside. Remember the offside that fell in the Villa and City game, the goal that City scores, where your man is like 15 yards offside, runs out, robs the ball, and kicks it back into the net as he comes from an offside position, right? If the refs just turn around and say, look, we had an absolute mare and we got that one completely wrong, right? Fine. But instead it's, that's actually the rule now, because when he kicks the ball off his bollocks, it's now the second phase of play. And even though he falls over and it lands on the ground and he kicks it into the net, that's the second phase. So he's not offside. It's not every other week and every other game he's offside. So it's just play the fucking game. As referees, accept mistakes. Players stay up and say, we made mistakes. Managers say, we made mistakes. And referees should be able to come out and say, we made mistakes.
But you're never going to get that. The only way you're going to get it is if you put them in a position where their decisions are highlighted for us to see. They're not going to come out and explain themselves, Phil. We're 30 fucking years into the Premier League now. They should, but they won't. You have to be realistic about what they will actually do. And we're still at the point now where that incident happens on Saturday, right? And Mason is on the pitch and there's a VAR fella in the box. And we don't know what's being said. And we don't actually know who's making the decision. And that's part of the grasp on this. When it all's said and done, that fella blows the whistle and indicates the decision, but we still don't know who's making it, because the rumour going around was they're only going over to the screens for the audience and stuff like that.
The second time he blows the whistle, he starts trying to run away.
Yeah,
he knows he's had to make it up.
Yeah, but this is the thing. But at the same time, why? It's very easy. Look, it's laughable. But at the same time,
so
if you mic him up, he doesn't need to check with VAR. He doesn't need to. All he has to say is say, "Listen, I blew the whistle the second time. I don't know why the fuck I've done that. That's a huge mistake on my part. But the second whistle went. I'm gonna have to retake the free kick, and that's actually he's done the right thing in the end. His decision is correct as to his actions, but his actions are fucking pathetic. And until we get to a place in this game where you either get them to the level or get them to a mandate the way the European football is, A, or B, you actually make them explain themselves in the actual event, forget it. You're going to end up with a big ring of protection around these guys, excuses every Monday morning that we can all laugh and chuckle over, and it'll go on and on and on. The product is already damaged by this. How much they want to damage it is completely up to them, in my opinion.
He shouldn't have blew the force whistle.
Yeah. If you said you want to hit it, you can just hit it. You don't need to blow a whistle.
Well, do you want to do it quick or wait for the whistle, and then he didn't check to see if the ref, see the keeper was done. Fair enough, the keeper was taking an age.
You can see Dunk saying it to him. I said, on your whistle, and he said, and you can see Dunk, you can literally read his lips while he's saying it. I know,
and he says, go on, blow the whistle. Can I take it now? He blows the whistle, but he just doesn't check if the keeper's finished setting up the wall. In any other normal circumstance, the ref has a check to see if the keeper's still setting up. If it's taking forever, then he's going to do the team for wasting time. But you don't just blow the whistle and let him fucking launch the ball into an empty goal.
And the Branda Cheese on the button, he says there should be a gulag for refs after a bad game. There should be. I don't know how to get out of the gulag, whether they have to blow their whistle at the right time or call a decision right before they can get out before the VAR does it. But yeah, right, lads. Second topic. Let's move along. And it's sort of something you've mentioned, and it's a good point. It's about the impact that those decisions could have on money and the overall money part. Gav, there's been lots of talk about Redboard Capital investing into FSG. It was Red Ball, Billy Beans, piece, looking to invest into Liverpool, just specifically Liverpool. That fell apart, as we know. But now it looks like the guy behind it, Jerry Cardinale, I think his name is looking to invest fully into the whole FSG suite across, which includes Liverpool, and it's a £750 million investment. So there's lots of talk, there's lots of natter. It seems to be fairly progressed in terms of John Henry. And when I was in John Henry's yacht there in Boston at Christmas time, he did mention that he was getting a new section put in for the Cardinales, but that's how it was. That's where Andy was last week as well.
Linda has her eye in the new Michael Kors bag.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not one you get down in the Liberties. It's an actual real one.
So, not a Michelle Kors.
Legit.
Go on, Gav. What do you want to talk about?
You know what? We bring topics here every week, and we bring them and we have strong feelings on them, and like Shawnee and in his topic just gone. Mine is more, I wanted to see what the listener or the viewer thought, because you're right, Red Ball were linked, and Billy Bean and stuff like that, and an investment, and from what I've read up on it, there was heavy talks between both parties, and then of course that looks like it's broken down. Red Board capital now look like you said, $750 million for a 10% share in Fenway Sports Group. And listen, I'm no expert on this. I'm reading little bits and pieces, because we see this every so often, not only with Liverpool, with other clubs, and then it just disappears. Amanda Staveley was around for ages. She was linked with every club about a year and a half ago. But I just wanted to see what people thought, because $750 million is a lot of money, tempers for this fairly small amount of hold on Fenway Sports Group. But I don't know how much difference it makes to Liverpool. I really don't. If you value, I don't know what the value in the Boston Red Sox are, and Liverpool, I don't know, is it $2 billion at this stage? So what are the other assets?
NASCAR, I think.
Yeah, but do this Red Board capital, do they want to come in and out of 750 million, do you want a certain amount pushed? We don't know. It's all on Liverpool. So I just wanted to see what people thought of it, because it's a lot of money, but it's a small stake, and I can't see a massive amount of that money being earmarked for Liverpool Football Club. That's just the way because they're self-sufficient as they are.
Zero of it.
Yeah, I just wanted to see. That was all. Like Barry reckons it makes zero difference to FSG. Have about 5 franchises.
Makes difference to FSG, alright, but
makes a difference to them. No, what he means is it makes zero difference to us, because they have got 4 or 5 franchises. But I just think a lot of people will look for FSG investment into FSG because of the model they have, the way they spend money. I've said for a while that I think this summer is the biggest summer on them. I think it's the biggest summer on them since he probably come in, simply because of the COVID situation, the way this season has gone, the age profile of the squad, how many years Klopp has left on that current contract. I think this is probably the biggest summer. So it's interesting to see this news come up, but I just don't know how much of a difference it makes.
I think the red ball situation would have made a material difference to the club, because they were investing directly into Liverpool.
Yeah.
And when I say material difference, I think it would have been that the Anfield Road end would have been sorted out and built, and the debt that was taken out for Kirby would have been paid off as well, in terms of not impacting as much on transfer budgets. Because there was that interview where he said, because they've done the training ground and they have to rebuild the Anfield Road, or they plan on rebuilding the Anfield Road, and then obviously they'd have to continue to be prudent in the transfer market, as opposed to lashing out a load of money like we did with Van Dijk and the lads when we did it, right? So I think that would have been a bigger impact on us than this Red Board capital deal. I think this Red Board capital deal potentially might move them towards purchasing another club or another sports vehicle. When they look at it, the idea of this is a hedge fund that increases their investment and increases their returns. It wouldn't surprise me if they go and look for a American football club, look for an American football franchise to add to the FSG group. The only thing that's missing there is a big franchise or an NBA team. And yeah, there is that talk about that they would look to build a model similar to what with Leipzig and Red Bull and Salzburg, and have feeder clubs, because they have I think Red Bull own Toulouse as it is, and Toulouse will become a feeder club into Liverpool, and would utilise it that way. That's probably the real impact. In reality, the bigger impact is going to be whether we get Champions League or not. The club generates its own transfer funds in the way it's operated. People can like it or not, as long as FSG owners of the club, that's the way it's going to be. The impact of COVID is going to have a significant impact in terms of what we can and can't spend in the summertime, both in what we sell and what we buy. And I don't know, Gav. I just don't. These things, until you see something material happening on the pitch, it's very hard to gauge how much investment in the ownership group is going to impact on the individual franchises that sit within that ownership.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair enough. Like, because if they told us tomorrow that deal has gone through, you know, everyone just sees the figure as 750 million quid, and they obviously, you know, they're, I suppose, selfish in a certain way that, you know, they want it for Liverpool, and then all of us would want all that money for Liverpool. That's how it works. The Boston Red Sox would want it for themselves, and not the other franchises they have would want that money as well. But I think you're right. I think you'll have to probably see something in the future on the pitch to say, has that made an impact? Because you could argue that if something big does happen, you could argue that it does simply because of the model. Like Shawnee speaks about the model all the time, and but it's an interesting timing on it, because I genuinely think they have to break away from this model this summer, or I think they're in trouble with the fan base. I really do.
Well, can I just say something on the model itself? It's a fascinating article I read. It was something that I followed on in terms of the analytics that's been used, and what had given us the advantage in the marketplace is the idea that the guys in the analytics rooms were using the Markov chain to identify undervalued players at similar levels and similar talent levels to what had been used before. And the guys had met, there's now a commercial company in place. I think it's like called Modern Ball FC or something like that, right, where they sell this type of analytics into individual clubs. So, and they're providing, at the moment, the type of analytics that Edwards and the team in Liverpool have been doing is now being utilised in West Ham, in Leeds, in Brentford, and in a couple of other teams in England. And they're the teams that seem to be finding gems, developing these gems, and then selling them on for higher prices. So the issue that I think the issue that Edwards is going to find is that if more and more clubs are using this same type of model, it's like everything. They're going to need to find something new now to tweak their model, or to find something else to give them that edge in the transfer market. Because ultimately, you'll have the opposite end of the Markov model, which is saying, well, if you are valuing us at this, if you're valuing this player at this price, we can almost figure out who the alternative options are and set our price against what that is. And most clubs will be looking to see who they're selling at that price level. And for us then, to get that traction, to get those pieces, that little bit of X factor that we've managed to pull off in the transfer market over the last few years, we're going to need to see the next evolution of what Edwards sees in his model or in his vision for the analytics that sits in terms of how they're using. So it's I think Kieran Dodd's asked where the article. There's an article, the most recent article I read in it was actually in the Echo, and it was probably on Saturday morning. Just if you go in and dig into it, just type in Markov chain and in the Liverpool Echo, and it'll bring it back that, because it's the specific type of analytics that they're using to identify the talent at the price point that's out there when they look at the players themselves. And it also goes into a bit more detail about that they're also looking at the personal side and all those type of traits, but it's primarily this Markov chain models that they're using to identify talent within the groups of players that are out there. So it's an interesting way. It's and it also gives you a better understanding for how we address players and how we look at players that are in our sort of transfer sphere or transfer window that's in it. Andy, Are you going to have big balloons out for the red ball, the red bull, the red capital, the red boards, and all the red lads? Does red boards, is that Mighty Red? Will he be one of the red boards? Will Mighty Red get a transfer to Boston if the deal goes through as the mascot for?
I don't really like. I just see the article that there's close to doing. I haven't seen any breakdown of what's being proposed here. Is this just a case where they get 75 million or whatever it is, and that's just a payout for their shareholders?
750 million.
750 million. Or is that just a payout for their shareholders? Is that just for their hedge fund? Like, I mean, that's what FSG wants. They want to have a payout. They want to see a return on their investment. Yeah. I like to keep Liverpool completely separate from this for a second. They're selling a part of their company that owns several franchises in their eyes. They want to be paid, and they're entitled to do so. Or is it a case where they pocket 350 million and I don't know, 400 million goes in, 100 million each into each of their franchises to increase the value of each of those clubs? Or is it a case where 10% of each club or franchise baseball club, whatever, has to pay out a dividend every year for their profits? So it could actually turn out to be a bad thing for Liverpool. So let's not get carried away. There may be a thing where they pump 100 million into each of the clubs that they own, and that way we get the Anfield Road end built or something. But they won't be buying players. Don't kid yourself, because that's not allowed.
What could they get as a bus?
The thing is, like, I think FSG will remain. I think FSG's end game will be that Liverpool, they don't have to touch Liverpool. The stand will be done, and then the whole club will be self-sustainable, whether it's match day revenues, sponsorships, prize money, whatever you get in. Yeah, look, whatever you take in, you just spend it on the squad and keep going. And that's fair enough. And with COVID, I don't know. I'm on the fence about whether that happens this summer. I'm with Andy. I think it's just FSG have more or less made that money back now on the initial purchase of Liverpool, which was around 350 million at the time, I think. They would have had invested a substantial amount since with the Anfield Road or the main stand and stuff like that, Kobe. So look, they would have had put a few that they gave us a interest-free loan for the main stand.
There was a right. They converted debt into equity as well. Like there's all sorts. Yeah. They have put money into the club, but what they won't do is buy loads of players, which is what I don't know why people every transfer window just think that this is possible.
They're looking at now. What worries me now is, like, I think with how prevalent sports watching is becoming in football, we may get left behind, and not just those. I think the Manchester United and other else, if you haven't got that sort of, let's say, Saudi Arabia type money coming in, it's going to be hard to compete coming over in Europe, and anyway, because you look at Real Madrid, they're signing a multi-millionaire deal with some sponsor from Saudi Arabia, and it's just money for jam, really. You know what I mean? I don't know whether FSG will buy into this. I don't know what sort of business models that they have or the likes of them. So, like Andy said, this goes one way or the other, which goes without saying. But I don't think that it's going to be some magical war chest now to dip into in the summer. I just don't think it works like that. I think, like Andy said, these could turn around, say, at the end of every year now, well, we want dividends and we want this staff for managing.
We're going to see the financials from last year published this month, and that's pre-COVID. So everything that's happened since, it's going to be difficult to amount their losses, because we're not out of this yet. We don't know what way football is going to return back to normality, and what impact that has on their Nike deal and whatever other deals are involved, or paying players, or the write down on the TV money. But we'll see because I just noticed comment there, like we will see their latest financial position very shortly, the most up to date one, and I think you're going to see massive profits. But those profits could have been sucked up. The money that was forecasted and planned to spend on whatever over the next 2 or 3 years, all those plans were stopped once COVID hit, because they are shrewd, and they're more shrewd than most owners. They're not going to just carry on with the plan until they can see what happens, evaluate the damage that's done to their club. So I do think they are in a good financial position. We'll know more in 3 or 4 months' time when football starts to return to normality. But I definitely think that the club are ready to compete in the transfer market, especially with the Nike deal. It enables so much, and with the success they've had, like, look at their ability to compete in the transfer market has improved over the last 10, 11 years, and it will continue to improve.
I think.
Why is that, by the way? Sorry, and Dicko's comment there. What's the story with that?
Second Leipzig game, same ground.
That's a joke.
The problem there is that from what I make out, Leipzig, if they travel to England to play, would have to quarantine for 14 days when they get back. And the German FA are not going to hold their games for them. So they have basically they've been told you play somewhere else or you're fucked in the
That's
league.
where we should be playing Doherty and being bastards.
Well, yeah, you could turn around and go, we're playing it here, but you see that'll come down to your weight.
Yeah, what happens in the next round, and they say that's what you did in the interest of the game.
True, yeah. Fairness. What do I know?
Yeah, they wouldn't be allowed back into Germany, or even if they got back to Germany, they'd have to quarantine. They could miss so many games, that kind of way. But I brought this topic up just to see if it have impact, and I think the impact that it'll have on the club as a whole, and the actual talk about money that Liverpool would spend, I think they're completely two separate issues. I don't know if we're used to this model, as people say, with FSG. Does this change the model because somebody is on the board now? From Red Board, does that change the outlook? Does it bring in new ideas? Does it look at their model and loosen the purse strings a little bit, or does it tighten them because they're protecting an asset? But the whole thing in the summer, I'm going to be honest, following on from January, I don't see how to get out of this summer following the model that they currently implement at Liverpool Football Club. I'll say that out.
Gav, there's already been signs that model has changed. The signing of THIAGO is a bit of a red herring in terms of what way it's going with Liverpool, because everyone, when that was first brought around, was like, "What? Nah, no chance we sign him. His age profile, there's no sell-on value." So it does go to show that they are willing to step outside the box. I think this January is the one window where they made a big fuck up, to be honest with you. And they have a reason. I think they were in. COVID in the end will prove to be the reason why they weren't as... It was, don't get me wrong, it was poorly handled. And in the end, it could be looked back in neglect in hindsight. But I think the model is overplayed. We haven't moneyballed anyone in age.
But the model is simple.
I'm not asking the money ball. I'm asking for. Yes,
Gav, hang on a sec. Because people won't like this, right? And people always go, "You're an FSG apologist." And if anybody knows me, I'm not an FSG apologist. I'm not an any apologist. I'm not anything. But there are myths that are around this, right? Since nearly every time we make Champions League, we spend, and people get caught up in net spend and stuff, but people get caught up in mad things. They get caught up in mad things, right? But we on average spend around 75 to 100 million every season once we've made Champions League. And people can go back and check this out, right? But what we spend on players in the summer and winter windows is around that. 16-17, we spend 155 million. 17-18, we spend 181 million on buying players in those windows, right? I'm just buying players, okay? So when people...
the last two, Phil, hadn't...
Sean, completely agree with you in terms of what it was. But I've always been convinced around that spend when we brought in Fabinho, Keita, Alisson, and Shaqiri. When we brought that group of players in, the idea was that they only had to go and rotate one or two players every season, so you didn't have to spend 100 million or 200 million every single summer to do it. You had the core of your squad.
I'm with Gav, though. I think they are in a boiling pot this summer, and I do think they need a similar window to the window when we just missed out on Champions League, when we lost the final. Not a rebuild, so to speak, but I think we need to be looking at the team next year and going, do you know what? We are definitely stronger than we were in August this time last year, whether that's one or two bodies in the starting 11, because you look at now what we have. The players who are there, not only are they not available enough, they're just not good enough either. And we shouldn't really see ourselves. I know we won the league after doing the Champions League, but that was an opportunity to bring one player in and another player in. So then this window, you probably only need another one or another two. That's what United done. That's what made them so successful. And they never really broke the bank if you look at United back in the day. In terms of, and they just got the right player, and they haven't done that in the last two. Well, I disagree. Jota and THIAGO, it's a good window, but in hindsight, it's a fucking disaster because what happens. But when you look at, you win the Champions League and Van der Berg and Harvey Elliott comes in, it's not good enough. I know we went on to win the league, but we won the league with the squad that we already had.
Yeah, and listen,
it's catching up now.
And that's the bit for me, because instead of having to go and do one player or two players, we do have to sign 3 or 4 players. And I suppose, look, Andy, we'll finish with your topic. We may as well roll into my topic, because it's probably the most natural roll into this as well, right? But just on it, if you think about it, the year that we go and win go to the final of the Champions League, we spend 155 million, right? We spend mad money that year. The previous year, to get us to that position where we then go and sign Salah and the lads and Van Dijk and Robertson and Solanke, we spent. But when we got into the Champions League, we spent 70 million. And again, there was shrewd transfer business. That was the year that we bring in Wijnaldum. That was the year we bring in Sadio Mane. And that's also the year that we bring in Joel Matip on a free. Like, those 3 signings have been mainstays in this squad. And I know Matip's had a really bad year in terms of injuries, and last year was as well. But these guys, like, this is why our model, and I go back to the analytics side and why it's allowed us to do it. We were able to go out and spend 70 million in that summer. We realised 75 million in sales, which is great. Like, I never get this thing about it's terrible that if we're spending
but Phil, this is where the big test is going to come, and the reason I say this is because they've left Origi too long, right? And now clubs know we want rid of him, okay? And the price is dropping, right? We know that, for me, I think he looked to move on Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who was a £40 million signing, and I think he'd be top.
But Gav, listen to me, Gav, listen to me before you jump in, because this you're naturally going into what I wanted to open, is because for us to go and spend 150, 200 million, we will have to realise values, and this was my topic. What is our realisable saleable assets in this? And by all means, this is where I want you just to go with it. Like, we're talking about Divock Origi. Divock Origi was never had more transfer value assigned to him than when he scored the winning goal in the Champions League final. Correct. Because after that, he's being pants, right? Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain
retired with his boots on.
Yeah, Ox has some residual value, but he only has some residual value as long as Sam Allardyce and Steve Bruce has a job in English football. Jesus, Alexa's talking to me here. This is what I want to ask you, lads. Who is it that we can sell without decimating our squad now, in terms of, instead of having to make the job a bigger piece in terms of making it a full rebuild? Who's there that we can realise value that's going to allow us to spend not just 70 million, but 150, 160, 170 million in this window?
FSG. That's the answer, Phil, because you're dropping back into this realm of who can we sell to allow us to spend this amount of money, and this is where they've snooked themselves. Because if you'd have sold Origi, like you said, you would have got 30 million for him 2 summers ago, right? No problem. And if Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, if you'd have done it last summer, you probably would have got 25 million for him. Okay, so there you go. You're not going touching 55 million for fucking them 2 players a minute. Not a fucking hope. You'd be doing well to do half that, right? At the way things are at the moment. And this is why I keep going back to it. It's going to roll in, and I'm telling you, this is the biggest summer for FSG. You know, like PPX says there, look at the trend of Sterling, Suarez and Coutinho. All 3 of them players wanted to leave Liverpool Football Club. They weren't sold because they weren't wanted. But I know where
is this 2015 or something?
No, we just saying the trend over the last couple of years of who they sell. But in my opinion, you see, I don't go in and go, FSG are this, FSG are this, or tell you that FSG are the best thing in the world. I'll take it on face value as it goes. And for me, you've just said something there. What do we sell? And I agree with you. There is players you can sell, and who are the most sellable assets? That's fine. But your question to us is, who do you sell to enable us to spend this much? They have to spend that much, Phil. I don't give a fuck if they go out and Origi and Oxlade-Chamberlain and whoever else walks out the door for pittance. They need to put their money on the fucking table right now, because I genuinely feel they will be left behind. I feel they let Klopp down, which they've already done in this previous January, and it will get to the stage where Klopp won't have enough time to put this team together and bring it back and put it back where it should be after what's been a disaster of a season for loads of reasons. He won't have time, Phil. The man is leaving the club in 2024, and he will not have time if they do not act properly this summer. That's my opinion on it. Sellable assets, there's loads of fucking names there, but I don't think as many will leave as people would like to. And that's why it comes back to FSG and having to actually go and do what Andy said won't happen and sign a couple of players and just go, we don't give a fuck what we sell. We have to just fix this and fix it now.
Your head is up with a satellite at this stage. Go on, Andy.
There's loads of players there in that squad. Some of them on loan that would be sold. Like, I don't know contract situations. Shaqiri's going to be sold. Origi is going to be sold. What have you there already? 40 million. Like, we got 25 million for Brewster, for fuck's sake. You've got
yeah, but Andy, that was pre-COVID. You can't. You got to look.
Just okay. Look, even if they were sold at half the price, you've Minamino who might be sold. You've Wilson. I don't think Firmino will be sold. Ox could be sold. Like, I mean, there's players there, and then you've players there that'll free up the wage bill as well. Like, there's a lot of players there on decent money, like the likes of Ox.
How many have you got there? How many have you got listed there, Andy?
I was just going down through the score. I didn't count them, but like
6, 7. 7, we call it 7. You've to replace them 7, Andy.
I know that. And Klopp doesn't really like to sell too many players all at once because it's very hard to bring in so many players to replace them. But a lot of those are on loan, are not involved, so it kind of makes no difference. I think you'll see maybe 4 important players come into the squad. And look, people talk about net spend all the time. Don't worry about it. The money, don't worry about where they get their money, whether it's from player sales. It all goes into one big massive pot at the end of the day. And if they collect 60 million on transfers and put another 60 million, Klopp will buy 4 or 5 decent players for that. We're not going to go out and buy Mbappe or Sancho or whatever. That's just not going to happen. Forget about it. That's kind of the model that we're talking about. But they will spend money. They've always spent money. Every penny has always been invested. Just look at the financials if you want to check. They've always invested in the club, whether it's capital investments, player contracts. All the money is always being put back into the team, and that's what they've done, and that's why we've had success. Like, there's greater minds behind all this than us.
Exactly.
Look,
I don't give a bollocks what we spend. I don't care how much a player costs. It really does not make a blind bit of difference to me what a player costs. It's about getting the right player. Like, look at the teams that have just scattered going money around the league and done nothing. Like, spending big money guarantees nothing. Good recruitment has got us where those got us. Not spending millions and millions and millions. Perfect recruitment has got us to where we were. That got us to the fulcrum. Not spending millions. Yeah, a couple of them cost big money, but there was a load of shrewd signings in there that allowed us to assemble a squad. We need to do that again, and that's the hard part. Getting that recruitment right is the hard part, because the last couple of windows hasn't been great. The players coming in. There's been a couple of Minamino's not worked out. Simicast. Look, don't give a fuck. Not worth the fuck to us. Not worth the fuck. Has not been available. Probably been a little bit harsh, but he's not worth the fuck. Let's be honest. Robinson has still had to play every minute this season. They just haven't worked out. Some of these signs haven't worked out. Now, Elliott comes back next year and is no doubt a part of the first team squad. I think he'll come in. He looks like he's ready to go. Championship for an attacking player is probably the hardest place to learn your trade. He's proven he's ready to go. So, Shaq out, Elliott in. That's one done already. You get rid of Origi. Like Andy said, I don't believe we're going to do a Sancho or an Mbappe. I think we'll be looking at someone like Daka from Salzburg, who comes in, who probably lights it up, and then all of a sudden is a world-class star again. So that's what we're looking at. They will need to double what they sell this summer for us to be in the D. So if they sell players for up to 60, I reckon if they put 60 million on top of that, we'd be grand. So 120 million altogether would guarantee that we get the right players. Not spending 80 or the 90 million on a Haaland.
Yeah,
just getting the right players.
We spent 50 million on Keita, right? And look, I still haven't given up hope on him, as that's what top Reds do. They believe in mad things. But I certainly believe that Curtis Jones has a bigger future at Liverpool than him. And he costs nothing. And Elliott could come in next season and have a way bigger impact. Now, I know Minamino wasn't expensive, but they're players that you would have assumed would have been involved quicker. And there you go. You have two players, Elliott and Jones, who might have massive futures. And it kind of solves a problem. Solves the problem of having to go out and buy a big midfielder or buy a big attacking player. You see these names coming up every week, and before you know it, they're gone. Neto's the latest one. Or Rafinha. Like, a player will come in for 30 or 40 million. Don't worry about it.
But I go back to, I look at that squad, and where I struggle to see at the moment is where we realise the real value. Like, we didn't sell Origi because nobody would meet our valuation on it. We didn't sell Shaqiri because nobody would meet our valuation on them. And it's not like they've gone and enhanced their valuation since nobody would meet their valuation. So
that's
the
on Edwards, though, Phil. No, that's on Michael Edwards. That's the other side of the coin. Like, you know what I mean? He blows smoke up his arse, but he let himself down in the summer with the valuation of the players.
And that's not FSG's fault.
I don't know whether Owen's being sarcastic there. Sorry, Phil.
What's Andy? But they never put them.
You don't have to.
Is that real? I don't know. I'm assuming he's taking the piss. Like, they grew this asset. Like, they're entitled to spend the money that the club has earned. Like, that is their pocket. Like, that is their club. Like, what does that mean? Your own money. There's not too many clubs in the world who operate in that model.
But I say if like, it wouldn't surprise me to see one big sale. But the problem I have with the concept of one big sale over our team this year is there's very few teams are going to be able to afford to put up the transfer fees that we want to go. And I think the likes of Salah and Mane will want to give it one more big season because of what's gone on across the course of this year. The one player I think will potentially realise a decent transfer value for us and will be a good sell will be Firmino. Of the three of them that's up top, right? I think we need to move on from him as the centre point of our attack. I think his engine is not there in comparison to what it was. I know he's played a billion games for us, and he was great up to 2 seasons ago, but he's on a massive cliff in terms of where his form has been to where it was. Even the goal he allegedly scored at the weekend was going to hit 2 linesmen and somebody up in a stand. Like, do you know what I mean? So
I feel that'd be a move that would benefit both parties equally. I think Firmino maybe needs a move away from Liverpool to recharge and just do something different. And look, I'm not bashing for him. He's been poor for a while now, and the fella's just running on empty. And I don't think he's completely fit for purpose for what we need anymore, to be honest with you. And maybe we need to change. If Klopp changed the system and maybe was able to fit him in somewhere else, yeah, I think so. But you need to another thing with clubs not having money. If clubs are spending 80, 90, 100, 120 million on strikers this summer, they're not going to be strikers who are in their peak, because there's so much top talent around Europe now that can be snapped up. There's Haaland, there's Mbappe, there's Lautaro Martinez, so many players around who will fetch that sort of money. And I think Madrid's, not necessarily Barcelona, definitely not, maybe not even PSG, Madrid, Man City, they will be looking to bring new poster boys in, because we're phasing ourselves out of this Messi, Ronaldo generation, so to speak. We're moving into the next phase of football.
The next phase, yeah.
So someone will want either of them too. Salah, I can see why Salah's a massive global star. I don't think people realise how big Salah is just outside of England. In the Arabic world, he's mega. He's LeBron James. He's Messi levels. He's 29. I think he's a player who can adapt and become even better. I think he could become a lethal centre forward someday for someone. Salah, if we're talking about assets, Salah is definitely our biggest asset. Nobody's going to buy Virgil. He's 30 years of age off the back of it. And I think Virgil would be happy. Virgil went through a lot to get to Liverpool, so I'd say he's probably a player who'd be happy to see us out there. Alisson, not many world-class goalkeepers out there at the moment, still relatively young. It's Salah, but I wouldn't sell Salah. I'd be more inclined to build the future around Mo Salah, to be honest with you. 2 or 3 years of Mo Salah as a top centre forward and get maybe a Neto in to back him up with Jota there as well. there's so many ways we can go, but I don't see us going down the Haaland or Mbappe way.
I think.
I think Firmino should be gone. To be honest with you, if I forget about sentiment, I'd let him go.
I completely disagree. I think Firmino, like people said, has played football for 4 years non-stop, and it'll catch you no matter how. The goals haven't been there. The form, the goals dried up. You see a lot of assists from him. That's dried up a little bit. But you look what's around him.
Gav. Yeah, he's been terrible.
He has been. But the funny thing is, we watched the game the other night, and people are telling you Firmino this and Firmino that, and he missed this chance. Mane got away with murder. Fucking murder he got away with. And it just seems Firmino's the latest scapegoat for me. But when you look,
scapegoat. He's just been poor.
Sean, he has been poor, but who fucking hasn't? Who hasn't?
Mo Salah hasn't been poor. Phillips hasn't been poor.
They've been okay. Van Dijk wasn't poor the back end of last season. For fuck's sake, he's played about 5 games.
Van Dijk hasn't been poor the back end of last. Firmino has been poor for 18 months, Gav. 18 months.
Firmino's been poor. And what's he got around him? Shawnee? What's he got around him?
What's he got around him?
He's playing the front three with him, right? And we're talking about Divock Origi, who you want out of the fucking club as the backup. He won't play him. He plays him as an absolute last resort. And
Gav, I have absolutely no issue. I have no issue with Firmino not scoring goals, but when he's not holding the ball up, he's not doing the pressing, he can't retain the ball.
Yeah,
he's busted, Gav. He's completely busted.
I completely agree with you. But I think if you put if you put more quality around him and more reliability around him, I disagree that you sell Roberto Firmino. I really do.
Why not? No. So can we not change the system?
Oh well, yeah,
take him out because he was regarded as the system for a long time.
Yeah,
and
the system's broken.
So
the system is
him
busted.
Out. So when you take him out, who are you putting in, Johnny?
Who are you taking? That's what I'm saying. We had Jota. He wasn't even going to get in the team when Jota was fit.
That's happening very shortly.
Yeah, what?
You don't have him now. Who
very shortly.
It does, Gavin. I'm talking about in the summer.
Gavin,
this is what we're talking about.
Gavin and all now. This is fucking outrageous.
But this is what we're talking about. We're talking about in the summer. We're not talking about now.
Okay, so you take Firmino out and you sell him, right? What are you getting for him? Who are you bringing in?
So you can sell him what? Honestly, how much you reckon we get for him?
25.
No, let's be honest.
Honestly, he's a 30-year-old player. He's on the wrong side of the age bracket, and I'm looking at 25, 30 million out the door.
So the question is Firmino still good enough to lead the line then for us next year?
No. He's not. Let's be honest about it. This is why.
This is my point. Gav, I'm not. This isn't nothing got to do with the run of results of the last couple of months. Firmino has been largely poor for the last 18 months. It's nothing got to do with his numbers because I never actually consider him a number 9. He just wears a fucking number 9 on his back. That's the only extent. If he wore a number 11, 14, nobody would give a shite. Nobody would compare him to other number 9s because that's not what he is. He never played number 9. Klopp found the role and built the team around him. But he just hasn't got the fucking legs anymore, man. It kills me to watch it because he was one of my favourite players. But we need to forget about sentiment. I think if you look at him, he's the most easily replaceable out of front three.
He'll benefit from a few weeks on the bench when Jota's back.
I think he absolutely would. I agree with you. And this, like, we weren't talking about Firmino being poor and not being good enough and stuff like that when we won a league title last year. You know what I mean?
I was.
It's fucking. Well, you were, but the very few were. You know what I mean?
Well, he was brilliant. He was probably a player.
Months, Johnny. You said
September to October, he played very well, and that was it. Then he was shocking.
Yeah, no, a lot of people in the chat disagree with me. They disagree with me, and that's absolutely fine. But I think, like, you know, we're going
this
to.
isn't a blatant. You said he's a scapegoat.
Yeah.
No, but you said he's a scapegoat, Gab. He's not a scapegoat.
He is, Johnny. He's being picked on at every fucking game. Every game, no matter what he does, he's picked on.
Yeah, but that's only by a load of bald heads.
No, it's not a lot of bald heads, Andy. Don't go into this Twitter fucking sphere that you always go into. What I'm saying is,
it's bald heads, Gab.
Listen, Andy, listen. Everyone just jumps on it now, and Firmino this, and Firmino that, and Firmino that. And you look, and there's loads of players around the squad that haven't played well.
Do you know what it is, Gav?
I don't think he's been good this season. I genuinely don't. I don't think there's been enough in him. I agree with you, Shawnee. I think his legs are gone to a certain extent because the amount of football he's being asked to play. But having said that, I think Jota, if Jota stayed fit, I think you would have seen a lot more from Firmino. I think he's just
I agree. Look, and I could be completely wrong. A good summer break and might help him. but I just don't see it. I don't see him ever being the Bobby that we need again. And that's the problem, because the front three revolves so heavily around him. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not stupid to think that the fella is absolutely useless. We need to get away from depending on him, Gav. That's my thinking. That's my way of thinking.
I still
because
still
when he plays well, when Firmino plays well, we play well. It's as simple as that. But it just hasn't been happening enough.
Yeah, I just look
especially
at it and I just
when Mane not playing well all season.
Oh, but you're not allowed to say that.
Mane has been stinking, and I've said it on more than one. The only one out of the front three is Salah. Salah's dragged the show on Moya because he's popped up. And the thing is, when Salah's poor, he's still putting goals in the back of the net. When Mane's poor, he gives you nothing. And I'd say that as well. When Mane's poor, he gives you nothing. When he's on it, he's probably one of the best attacking players in the world.
He's been completely void of confidence all season. It's unbelievable. He doesn't try anything anymore.
The thing is, I agree. We were unlucky in a way with Jota. Jota was flying. Jota was carrying us largely.
Yeah, but Jota gave Firmino, for me, that jolt he needed. It was like he was sharing the responsibility with him. He wasn't having to play every single game. Look, he could sell I don't think he'll sell Firmino. I don't think there's a fucking chance of it. But he could do, right? But all I'm saying is, like we say with all these players, like, well, you see THIAGO when we have all these players back. Well, you see this when we have all this fucking... We say this every fucking week, every show. It's spouted everywhere, right? All I'm saying is, I would love to see... I think you would see more from Firmino if, like Phil has asked us, who's the most sellable assets. I would like to see the front three. I'd like to see Jota there. I'd like to see Harvey Elliott brought in instead of Shaqiri. I've no issue with that. But I'd like to see Origi out and another quality player brought in, and to share the load. I think the biggest thing on this team this season is they're just being asked to play game after game after game after game. And the people, and it's annoyed me the most, I've told you this loads, the people that annoy me the most in this squad are the people that A, don't show up when they're asked, or B, they're not even fucking there to show up. And that's what annoys me the most.
But that's what you're talking about, Firmino. He hasn't turned up for 18 months.
No, what I mean is, what I mean by that is, I mean the people that last season when Liverpool are flying, you get these players going, well, I don't really get a game, why am I getting a game and stuff. And then this season they're asked, they're called upon because of what's happened. And they're either not available, or when they are available, they're awful. And I can't get past... I can't get my head around the fact that you'd look to sell any of our 11 that you will put on the pitch on top form. Any of them.
Well, honestly,
because you can make excuses. You can make excuses for any of them and the form they've had.
You can't make excuses. Football isn't about excuses, right? And this is what annoys me about it, right? So, like, I would sell Gomez tomorrow. The guy suffers from too many big injuries. He's a very good player alongside Van Dijk when he's fit, but the problem is he is a big injury sufferer and he's out for long spells on nearly every season, whether it's somewhere between 6 and 20 games in terms of what it is. And if we're talking about sellable assets, Gomez is a massive sellable asset for us if we wanted to raise serious funds in terms of what's there.
And we can't sell him straight after exploding knee, for fuck's sake.
Well, we were talking about selling. We're talking about selling Oxlade-Chamberlain last summer. I don't know how you're going to sell him because he hasn't even got a leg. He's only got one leg.
At least
I don't know how you can say he's one of the most sellable assets. After you've just said that he's injury prone or not injury prone, but he suffered from big injuries. How do you go and sell it? How do you go and sell him? Listen, do you want this fella?
It's like selling someone a Ferrari, but you might not get out of the driveway.
Yeah, there's a fucking micro engine in it. Like, you know what I mean?
I'll tell you why.
No sense.
I'll tell you why, Gav. Because a team like Arsenal, a team like West Ham, will come along and spend 25 to 30 million on Gomez because they'll say, you know what, if he's over his worst of his injuries, he's exactly the type of defender we need in the centre back. He's quick, he's fast, and he's very good in terms of attacking the ball. And he can bring in something because he must have learned off Van Dijk. The same with Keita. I'd love to get rid of Keita because I just don't see any value in having him around the club. Honestly, I don't. He's a smashing player, but like I heard he got injured today when he went into Tesco to pick up a bag of strawberries. Like, honestly, the fella is just a liability when these
changed the game when he come on there.
He did, yeah. He changed it massive.
Sorry, Sim with a super chat says he doesn't score goals. A striker needs to score. I think this is about Firmino.
He doesn't.
And we've had that argument. Yeah,
that doesn't bother me. Bobby not scoring goals doesn't bother me at all. Not one bit. Not when the two fellas either side are getting 20 a season. That doesn't bother me at all. It's not my issue with Firmino. Never has been. Who's that, Joe Walsh?
Sim.
Score goals. Striker needs to score goals.
I wouldn't sell Gomez. I don't know. He deserves a chance.
Half the reason I want to sell Gomez is because he just reminds me of Jamie too much, so that's why I'll get rid of him. Because every time I see Gomez, I just see Jamie's head with a beard. That's it. It's like, that's it. Off you go. Yeah,
Jamie has a beard though.
Yeah, but when Jamie shaves his head and everything, him and Gomez look very like. So I'd have to get rid of everything. That's why it really annoys me. But now I know what you're saying, Sean. But I'm just trying to think. If you're going to lose a player out of the squad, to realise real transfer funds for going and making a splash, like we're linked with Varane, we're linked with loads of these players, which are for the now, right? Like
Varane, holy Jesus! Imagine if he signed him. Look at catch on a blower top.
Does me fucking head in, Varane.
Varane.
Does me head in. Like he's letting down every week watching.
Does me mallet in. So overrated, that player. It's unbelievable.
I think he's a lovely player. Andy, there's a lot of people getting very upset at the fact that I hate nearly everyone in their squad, but however, right? I don't. I really like. I actually like Ben Davies as well. I think he's a great player. I think he's going to do well for Celtic next season.
The problem with selling Keita and Phil, even if we're to lose Wijnaldum this summer, and then Ox is to go, and then if you're selling Keita, that means you have to buy 3 midfielders. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No, I know, and like we have to buy 2 as it is. So it's like, because you need to buy one to play. If you're going to keep Keita, then you need to buy one to replace him anyway, right? Because he's not going to be around that much, and then you still need to replace Wijnaldum in the team. So, and Ox is just like Ox. There's no point in even talking about Ox. The poor chap his career's over, like, you know what I mean? So it's he'll.
I don't see how he has a future at Liverpool, because he comes back and he's fit for weeks and weeks and weeks, and he doesn't seem to be put in the team. Fellas are on the last legs, and this fella isn't being put in the side. I just don't see. And listen, nothing against the fella. I think he was a different type of midfielder that we had when we signed him. But when I look at it now, and I think he's probably forced out the door, because I'm just looking going when Wijnaldum's playing minute after minute after minute. Thiago's coming back from an injury and he's going to take time. You know, Fabinho, Henderson, centre half. Milner's 35. Keita's never there. Jones is a young man. You know, and you're going, this is obviously, the stage is set here for Oxlade-Chamberlain to come on and push on and reignite his Liverpool career. And all you see him doing is running up and down the sideline, warming up. One week to the next. I think the writing's on the wall in a massive way.
Like Andy said, if you're a splowdy player and your knee goes and you're a splowdy player, then you just don't recover from them.
It's a double explodey.
So splowdy players and splowdy knees equals out the gap.
But can I ask a question? Like, just on that,
West Ham will buy Ox.
People are, like, Sean, it goes back to, like, if you look at the lads who are playing in midfield for us, Milner's 37 million years old, right? Keita's never available. Oxlade's constantly injured. Like, we have a big rebuild in that midfield. Like, Genie, even people are saying, oh, Genie's staying, it's great, Genie's staying. Genie's 30 as well. Like, he's going to be on the wrong side of the cliff when it comes for midfield players.
He's deadly though.
He's a thoroughbred. Don't worry about him.
Lads, this is how it
two more
downhill slope. It's in this pace and the way Klopp wants his teams to play. And then we're also looking at Henderson turning 30. All of a sudden, all your midfield are over the 30 side, and we're asking these lads to put in high performance, high pace, high pressure, high intensity all the time, and it is going to impact their fitness and availability.
It will, but if this comes back to the reliability issue. If you have Oxlade-Chamberlain and Naby Keita available for 50% of the games this season, it makes a massive difference. It makes a massive difference. But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you get 50% to help out with them, it makes a massive difference to Fabinho or Henderson or Wijnaldum or Milner or whatever. You're much more able to rotate, and this is what has annoyed me the most about the season. I can take the COVID stuff. I can take the fucking injuries. I can take the lack of form. What I can't take is players that were on the fringes and looking for a chance and looking, and when they're given it, they disappear. That's what annoys me the most.
Yeah, I'm just looking at lads picking up injuries. Like, I've never seen Milner pick up as many injuries in his life. Hendo's picked up a lot more injuries this season than he has at any point before.
Milner's always been a bit funny with injuries.
But it doesn't. He's never missed as many games as he had this season in terms of what's there. And lads, they are getting older. And when you do get over 30, as a man who passes 30 a long time ago, you do pick up more injuries and you do pick up knocks. And the
Big
worst
difference between mid-40s, Phil.
I know it is, but the biggest concern I have, Andy, though, is the backups, and that's where I go back to the Keita and the and they're valid things, but they're going to be relied on a lot more, or the players that you have there are going to be relied on a lot more next season. And we've had a big presence. Fabinho missing in midfield for me is massive, right? So I think having somebody that can also step in and play that midfield role when Fabinho isn't there, or we need to put two of them in midfield, is a big question. I think we need to sign two. I'll go back to what Shawnee said. I think we need to sign two midfielders. I think two midfielders are a massive priority, and one centre back is a massive priority for the summer, and a centre forward. If you did those 4 players, it's not a full rebuild. It would allow us to do a lot then with the players that we have and the players that we have in our squad.
I think we're undermining. We're undermining every time we get into these conversations. We're really undermining what's there at the moment and what has to come back.
Oh, I'm not. I'm looking going, you get them back. So if you get the players back you were speaking about, and you're going to talk about it in a second, you get them back, right? You're still left with players in that squad that aren't reliable, and this season has shone a light on them. And again, it goes back to FSG and the earlier conversation we had. They're not going to get away with pawning off these players for the mad money that they want. They're going to have to take their licks this summer and go, listen, A, B, C, and D are gone, and we're only getting fucking 30% or 40% of our perceived value. That's just the way 20. It is because we made a bollocks of it last summer and we kept them for too long. And you know what? People, and not only that, people know we're going to be in the market, and people know how much money we've made and not signing players last season when we won a European Cup and stuff like that. They're going to have to come out and put the money down. It's as simple as that. They're not going to. And look, Shawnee's right. The right player at 30 million, give him to me all day instead of just going, listen, look who we signed, big shiny thing, 90 million. I'm all for that. But there is going. No, it's not going. I don't think it will. But I still think, saying we can get 60 and then add 60 to it, I think it's going to have to be a lot more than that. That's just the way I think.
Gav, Adrian, spot on there. There's nothing wrong with the backup when you have a full squad. It's the backups to the backup.
Okay.
We have got Fabinho coming back into the team, who I do think is going to start featuring midfield again. Mm-hmm. Because say what you want about Quebec, he needs time to settle. People are being extremely harsh about a player who's 20 years of age, who's coming into a different league, different language, everything, and different setup. And he's made a few mistakes, glaring mistakes, lad. Getting caught under balls and stuff like that. But can a 20-year-old coming into a new league not be nervous? You look at Fabinho, he didn't start for Liverpool for months. Robertson didn't start for months. You know what I mean? And there's Quebec who's had to come in and take responsibility.
And he played on the wrong side last night.
Yeah, and he will settle in. And he's playing against Phillips, who can't be out. I think Phillips gets a lot of undeserved stick. I don't know, people just don't like the look of him, how he plays, but he's hardly put a foot wrong. And as long as we have two players playing together who are proper centre backs, we'd be all right. We're not just leaking goals. You know what I mean? The setup is decent. And if you put Fabinho back into midfield, we're going to start winning balls up higher. It's going to start enabling the full backs to get into a bit more space. And with Jota coming back as well. The difference that those two players are going to make is unbelievable. And I was just talking about, I didn't want to look at the league table for the last few weeks because it's depressing. But we're 7 points behind United. You know what I mean? With a lot of games still to play. We could easily finish second at this stage. And then, look, the season is right, a complete write-off in terms of chasing the league, obviously. But next season, you have Van Dijk back. You have it probably a more permanent centre back in beside him. You've all your players back, hopefully. It's all I seem to be getting from Liverpool fans lately is this doom and gloom, and nobody can see that we're still the champions. We only won the league last year. We only won the Champions League 2 years ago. We're missing an awful lot of players, and we're missing an awful lot of things that make this team so special. The fans in the ground. It's been a tough season if it can go wrong for Liverpool, it has gone wrong this season. If you've had the manager's mother dying, and the goalkeeper's father dying, how could you fucking predict this mad shit? And it has to be tough for a team who who put in so much mentally last year, who never really got a break, never really got to celebrate, never got to hit the reset button, and regroup. All of those things that are really important going into a new season after putting in everything for such a long time. You know what I mean? It's a bad dip of a season, but we have been hit with a lot of things that have affected them. And I think with Jota coming back and Fabinho coming back into midfield, it's gonna be vast improvements. And you're only looking at Leicester there 6 points ahead, Chelsea a point ahead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Look, I'm looking forward to it. Like Jota especially, Fabinho. I hope he does come back, and I hope he does go into midfield. I fully agree with that, and I'm not doom and gloom at all. I don't want to come across as doom and gloom, because I'm not. I like to be fairly measured in whatever way I go, whether it's negative or positive. But like Jota, I think will make a huge difference. I think he's a freshness up front, and I hope you're right, Andy. I hope Fabinho gets back into midfield. I don't want to see him at centre half now. I'd rather take our chances at centre half and strengthen midfield as much as we can, and that'll help protect that area of the pitch. But even when you see the likes of Van Dijk and stuff come back, Andy, there has to be a chat around the squad and who's in it and what value they bring, and can we replace them? Should we replace them? And the answer for a couple of players is yes. But I still think that they've left some of them players too long. They're going to have to take the hit in the summer, and they're going to have to spend more than you think. And that's not like, oh, they better do that. I think that's what will happen, or what will need to ultimately happen. But having said that, when we get to June the 1st and all our players are fully back in training and we line up our squad, you're going, yeah, bring on next season, because like you said, the likes of Jota, Fabinho back, Henderson will be back, THIAGO will have a season under his belt. It's a fantastic squad, but I still think their decisions on certain players over the last 18 months, I'd say, is going to bite them in the summer, and they're going to have to react.
Does it look, Gav? There's a lot of deadwood. You said they're going to have to spend more than I think. I think they're going to need to spend less than, maybe not you, but most people think. I mean, when we look at people linking us with players, like they're all players that's totally unrealistic. Like, we went out and spent massive money on Van Dijk and Alisson because we desperately needed a world-class centre-back and a world-class goalkeeper. It was quite obvious, and the money was there to go and do it, and it paid off. But you don't need to do that every season. Like, when you talk about, oh, well, we only spent 10 million after winning the Champions League, but we spent 200 million prior to that. There's that you've forgotten about.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you.
You want to be building. Yeah, you're going to spend that money on two players. You want to be getting a good 4 or 5 years out of them. It's top level, solid stuff. And there's still plenty of years left. Like the squad are, I don't know, top kind of end of the squad. Their first 11, there must be an average age of probably 27, 28. So there's plenty of years left in that squad. In the and it is. I think it's just a case of going out there and maybe buying 4 players and getting rid of 4 deadwood, and then you've Elliott coming through, Curtis Jones coming through. Like, you just can't predict the ceilings of these guys. These are our next big thing. Look,
the best thing I can say, Andy, is that hopefully we don't sign anyone that's playing in stupid competitions over the summertime. Like, having Harvey Elliott come back is great because he won't be involved in some fucking pointless European competition that nobody gives a shit about at the national level. They're talking about that Salah is going to be off to the Olympics if it takes place with Egypt. In an under-23 team as 2 of the senior players. Like, I get where you're getting your positivity from. I can get on board with it. But at the same time, we've won 1 match. If we can put 3 wins together, I'll start to think to myself, right, we've righted this ship and we might be able to do something come the end of the season. But the next game, this Chelsea match, is make or break. I know we had to win against Sheffield. Like, losing against Sheffield or drawing against Sheffield Wednesday ended the season. But we have to go and beat Chelsea. If we harbour ambitions of breaking the top 4, we have to put a massive spanner in the works at Chelsea and put ourselves back in the driving seat, because the problem we have at the moment is we're not in the driving seat. Right, we don't have control over our own destiny. And the quicker we can catch the two teams that are in front of us and keep everything behind us, the better. Because once we get our noses back into that top 4 spot, I trust the players. They know what it's like to have pressure. They know what it's like to go into this situation, whereas all those teams don't. Right, and Chelsea is my worry in terms of the group of teams that are around. I think we can catch Leicester. I'm looking at the injuries Leicester have, and I think it's feasible that Leicester get pulled back into this because they're not going to get those players back in the short term. So I just think from third down, the two spots in the top 4 are open, but we need to do our business, and this starts with the win against Chelsea. Johnny.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you, and I agree with so many of the points. But this summer will be heavy on FSG and with Gav on that, and top 4 is still wide open and coming into Thursday, and there is cause for optimism, but you've got to be wary as well of what could happen at Euros. Players dropping like flies, stuff like that, players coming back. So I'd love to just see fans back in the stadium in September, come around September. I think that will also be massive for us as well. Coming into Chelsea, like if you were to turn around and tell me on Thursday that Salah's out on Thursday because he locked his keys in the car and couldn't make the Anfield, I'd believe you, because that's the way things are going. Like we had lads doing diagnosis on fucking Jota having to get bleeding his appendix out and how long he was going to be back. Yeah, like so. This is the mindset we've put ourselves in. Like it feels like that we made the shoddiest deal in history for a league title, and we're getting shafted for it. Like it's unbelievable. Like we didn't even get to enjoy it. We didn't even get to go over and celebrate. We didn't see a parade. So I think there's a little bit of PTSD going on. A lot of people would have been around from the Hodgson days, and we were just getting so used to being winners. It was coming around that way, and we just completely shit our luck this year. And hopefully we can galvanise the squad and get them in. I still think loads of teams will drop points. I don't think Thursday's make or break at all. Still so much football to be played. The league is completely bottlenecked, and everyone is playing everyone. There's winners in their side. There's nothing sure that there is winners in their side who know how to get the job done. And I'm cautiously optimistic, to be honest, about getting top 4. But I don't think not ending up in top 4 is as big a disaster as people are letting on as well. I really don't, because I don't see any of our big boys being one away. I don't see any of them being one away. To be honest with you, maybe finishing outside top 4 and just completely writing off Europa League next year might stand to us better if we want to go and win the league title next year.
Jota's definitely fit, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good to go on Thursday.
His appendix isn't burst.
No, that was a load of bollocks. The pain was on his left-hand side anyway.
Right, lads, it's been a long night so far, 92 minutes. I believe there's a bit of pew to be done in Verdansk. There's a bit of hoisting to be done in San Andreas. And Andy has to get up to level 43 in Golden Axe if you want to catch up with where I'm going.
What was the shot he said before? What was it?
Flimbo's Quest.
Flimbo's Quest.
He's firing up the Commodore. He has to type out all the codes if he's there all night.
That was the light shining off his head, all the graphics and all coming off from earlier.
You know the cassette, he has the cassette in, trying to fast forward to the bottom of the cassette where it starts to command.
It's going to be Andy in 10 minutes. Look, that game's not working. Blown into the cartridges.
Well, that Warzone game is stupid.
Stupid.
You walk around for half an hour and see one fella just going to shops.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Cheers for that. The best bit is if you can find Carl Torley who's narrating his way around Verdansk.
Carl's not allowed up at this hour. I asked him to stay up till 11:30. He goes, no, I'm playing at 9. But mind, he doesn't get out of bed till 12:30. He's getting paid loads of money for not being a taxi man, for fuck's sake.
I'm going on the Streets of Rage.
Streets of Rage.
Andy, there's actually a new Whopper version of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still 2D, but it's HD. It's Whopper. It's Lee. I know the cheats. I'll send them to you. I have them written down in my Matt's copy.
Can I get that on PlayStation 1 or 2?
No, you can get it on the new Xbox.
All right.
On the game.
No,
And
boy.
if anyone's playing Sims out there, don't forget the R1, L1 testing sheets on money, 10 million, and you have all the simoleons in the world. You can live like Al Capone. It's breeding brilliant to this. I always play as a woman. Just the way I feel.
Mohammed can confirm that the appendicitis is on the right hand side and it's bloody painful.
Has anyone got a SCART lead there? I need one. I can't find one. Anyway.
Taking
Jono's on there.
Out of the back
Jono's
of the
on
telly.
there. Russell Wilson to the Bears. If that's the case, then I'm going to be up all night long watching Russell Wilson compilations because that's all I want to know.
Okay. Are we out of here? Yeah.
It's in Game Pass, Con Danili.
It's what?
It's in Streets of Rage. It's in Game Pass, he said.
It's in Game Pass, is it? All right, there you go. So
Straight
there
onto that.
There you can waste the rest of your hours. Anyway, lads, I want to thank everyone for their comments in the comment box. That's great, except PPX. Don't like you. And the rest
He's
of you,
in here mostly. He's alright.
the rest of the lads are all sound, except some Everton fella who came in and kept saying Pickford all the time. Weirdos.
Right.
Better off keeping them. Hopefully they go to their underwater stadium soon and just stay there and become fishes.
Square pants.
I know, yeah. Big thanks as ever to Gav for running the show, to Shawnee down there in the corner, and Andy down there. I'm like a clock at this stage. If I go the other way, I'm going to dislocate my shoulder. That has been the club. Not the club. That's been the forum.
I never call him Gavin again. Sorry, Gav. Sorry, J Balls.
Sorry, Gav. Sorry, J Balls. I don't even know if I can accept that one. Good luck.